Hi guys, we now come to the second lecture of epidemiology, that is descriptive epidemiology. It is the first phase of the investigation. The questions asked are: when is the disease occurring, that is time distribution; where is it occurring, that is place distribution; who is getting the disease, that is person distribution. The procedure which is there, that is you need to remember all these 6 steps. So, now we discuss each step in detail. First of all is define the population to be studied. What do you mean by that? You need to know how much population you are going to cover, whether you are going to how much are you going to include, whether it is 100,000 or more than that, whether you are going to include multiple cities or whether you are going to include multiple countries. So, you first need to define the population to be studied. It also needs to be defined in the way of age, sex, occupation, cultural characters. It depends on which disease you are studying. If it is dependent on the cultural characters, then you have to keep that constant. Suppose if it is say root caries, then accordingly you will select the age of the population to be above 50, say 50 to 60 and 60 to 70, and greater than 70 you can include those age groups. Similarly, if a disease is if it is more in particular sex, then accordingly sex and occupation too need to remain to be constant. Then specially selected groups you can include, that is examples are school children and hospital patients. You need to select a stable population, so that when it is being studied, there is no migration of the subjects. For example, visitors or relations of the people who are staying there should not be included. Another important thing is that there should be a health facility which should be there nearby for referral. So, if the patient needs to be referred to the health facility, it can be done right away. So, when you collect the population, you should have the study group as well as the control group. The difference between study group and control group is that the age, sex, occupation and cultural characters remain constant. Only in the study group there will be the presence of disease, and the control group there will be the absence of the disease. Next is defining the disease under study. So, we need to have a operational definition of the disease, so that you can identify the disease easily in the field and measure it with a degree of accuracy with the help of index or with the help of a laboratory test. Once established, it must be adhered to throughout the study. You cannot change the definition according to your convenience. Once you start the study, then you have to adhere to the operational definition. If the definition is not valid, that is you have not defined the disease clearly, it would lead to huge error. Example, if you say tonsillitis has to be a sore throat, that is not a complete definition. A tonsillitis would mean enlarged red tonsils plus lymphadenitis plus a positive swab for Streptococcus pyogenes. Then next you need to describe the disease by time, place and person. We come to each of the headings in detail. So, time will be year or season, month or week, day or hours of onset or duration. Place is like according to climatic zones, country, region, urban, rural, town, cities or institution. Person will be age, sex, marital status, occupation, social status, education, family size, height, weight, blood pressure, blood cholesterol, personal habits. So, the disease is frequently examined in this descriptive studies in the following headings. You can write them down and then give examples. So, short term fluctuations are epidemics, periodic fluctuations are seasonal trends or cyclic trends, like malaria comes in every monsoon and then it gradually phases out after the winter. then diarrhea and other water related diseases happen in the summer. Long term are secular trends, that is changes that occur over a long period of time. Example, coronary heart disease, lung cancer and diabetes have an upward trend, while tuberculosis, typhoid, polio have gone down, the prevalence has gone down. Then place distribution, that is there are international variations, national variations, rural urban variations and local distribution. Examples of international variations include oral cancer is more prevalent in Southeast Asia because of the tobacco habit, while stomach cancer is more prevalent in Japan and not at all and rarely in USA. National variations means about the endemic diseases such as fluorosis is present in particular areas, similarly goiter is present in particular areas. Then rural urban variations, that is in cities you will see more lifestyle associated diseases, while in urban you will see diseases which are more associated with helminths or worms or nutritional deficiency diseases. Local distributions means if there is a contaminated source of water or contaminated source of food in that particular area, you will see particular GIT diseases and so on. Next we come to person distribution. So few diseases are more prevalent according to the age, sex, similarly occupation, socio-economical status, marital status, behavior. Example is root caries is more prevalent in elderly, periodontitis also is present more in adults, while dental caries is present more in children. Similarly for sex, similarly for ethnic groups, occupation, people who are working in floor factories are more prevalent, are more susceptible to decay. Socio-economical status is if they are of high socio-economical status is high, then there are lifestyle related diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, while nutritional disorders, I mean nutritional diseases, nutritional deficiency diseases are more prevalent in lower socio-economical status people. Marital status, people who are married are more responsible and therefore tend to live longer, while those who are not married are not and they usually tend to die earlier. Similarly, cancer of the cervix is not found in or very rarely found in nuns. Behavior means lifestyle associated diseases. If you have a life which is full of stress and tension, then accordingly you are more susceptible to diseases and to a early death. The next is you measure the disease. We just studied what is incidence and prevalence in the previous lecture. So, incidence can be obtained by longitudinal studies and prevalence can be obtained by cross-sectional studies. What do you mean by the word longitudinal? When a study is carried out over a long period of time, that is you find the disease and then you have a constant follow-up, that is a longitudinal study, while cross-sectional study is carried out on a cross section of period on a cross section of the people at a time, and it is not over a long period of time, it is like taken away right away. Then comparing with known indices, that is you make comparison between the two population subgroups so that you find out clues to the disease etiology. It also helps in identifying risk factors of the disease. So, what is the meaning of etiological factors and what is the meaning of risk factors? I mean, if the etiologic factor is exposed to both the persons, but if one person has a risk factor, then that person is more likely to get the disease. So, that is a risk factor. Formulation of hypothesis. What do you mean by the word hypothesis? It is a supposition arrived from observation or reflection. It should specify the following, that is population, specific cause, expected outcome or disease, dose response relationship and time response relationship. An example is if you say a hypothesis is smoking can cause lung cancer, then that is not a complete hypothesis. A complete hypothesis is when you say that when you find a person smoking for more than 10 years and more than 10 packets per day, then that person has got 10% of chance of lung cancer, then that is a complete hypothesis. So it gives you the dose response relationship, time response relationship, the specific cause, the population, and the expected outcome. So that is a hypothesis. What are the uses of descriptive epidemiology? It provides data with regards to the type of disease problem and the magnitude in community. It provides information on etiology of the disease and formulation of an etiological hypothesis. It provides data required for planning, organizing and evaluating preventive and curative services, and it leads path for further research.